Hello and welcome to Blue Army TV. I'm sitting here after Carlisle. I've just drawn 1-1 away from home at Yeovil. The first thing you might notice is that I do not sound right at all. And just to get that out of the way really quickly at the start of the video, I've been quite ill for the last few days. And the one symptom of my illness that's decided to stick around longer than the rest is my throat being terribly sore, which also means that my voice is knackered, so you're going to have to try and ignore that, and because of that as well, this is probably going to be a little bit of a shorter video. But onto the more important things. Yeah, that game today, I think we were poor, but I think under the circumstances, and on a day that things weren't really going our way, I think a point, it's not what we went there to get, but we probably can't be too disheartened coming away with a point from that game. It's so frustrating because if we'd have won that game, we'd have gone top of the league, which is obviously where we want to be. And as a team, you get an extra level of confidence when you are top of the league, which would be fantastic to have, even with Rochdale's 2 games in hand. If you're the team that's top, you're the team that's top. But yeah, I think there was a number of our players that really underperformed today, and I think the big one and the most unusual one is Morgan Feeney. It was his own goal for the first one, a very strange own goal as well, or at least that's what it's gone down as, I think. Yeah, he was very poor all game really as the captain, and look, I slated the previous captain for being a very inconsistent performer, and I think it'd be very hypocritical if I didn't criticise Feeney for having a really bad game, which I think he did. I think he had a very poor game. I think both centre-backs did, but Feeney in particular. Feeney was worse, and it's also a bit more unusual for Feeney to have a bad performance compared to Hayden, because we've seen it a lot more with Hayden, but Feeney, first time he was here, he was fantastic every game he played till he got injured. Then we didn't really see him, and in his second spell he was injured for the first few weeks, but once he came back he was fantastic, consistently. So it's, everyone deserves an off day, and if that's what this is, an off day, then that's fine, but hopefully he can get back to his best next week. Another player that I think was particularly poor today was Chris Clark, which is, again, it's not one you expect, because in the first few games he's been here, the FA Cup game, and then obviously Forest Green, I think he was one of our star players. He's been one of our star players in every game we've played since he came here, and it was unusual to see him, really underperform, misplaced passes constantly. He's never been one to get stuck into a tackle, but even that today stands out more. And to be honest with you, I think a big part of the team's problems today was that they were playing on a lot smaller pitch in very windy conditions, so they couldn't really play it along the floor too much. I think we're used to using a lot of space with the pacey wingers we've got. We're used to being able to run into space, and Yeovil, it has the potential to be a very large pitch, but there's so much room either side. There's such a gap between the pitch and the stands that could be made into pitch, but hasn't been. It's a very small pitch at Yeovil, and I think that really, obviously they're entitled to do that, and I kind of respect it in a way, but I don't think that played in our hands at all. Not that that's an excuse. I think when you're in the National League, you should have to get used to playing in all these manners of pitches. But yeah, look, it was a tricky game. It was a game that I was not too confident coming into. I always do think of Yeovil as a good team, even when they're not, because I don't know. I just kind of see them as quite a big club. It's the same as it's the same as when weirdly when we played Bolton, when they were really underperforming. I know they went up that season, but when they were in League 2 and they really underperformed in the first half of the season, and we played them, even though we were so much ahead of them in the league, I'm scared of them because they're a bit of a big club, and I get the same thing with Yeovil. In my mind, weirdly, they're a very big club, so I wasn't too confident coming into today, but, I definitely wanted to win, and I definitely, would not be wrong to expect a win coming from this game. We are Lords higher in the table than them. We could have gone top if we'd won today. There was big motivation to win from today, especially after the fantastic performance against Forest Green. I really expected us to build on that. But at the same time, teams are going to have off days. And in such a long away trip, on a very small pitch, in very, very windy conditions, when the ball was out of play a lot today, I'm a little bit let down by that result, but it's not the end of the world. That will be my summary of that game today. We underperformed. We really underperformed in difficult conditions, and we still walked away with a point. I remember hearing people say that, win your home games, draw your away games. So to draw a very difficult away game, it's almost a bit of a liberty to be able to be disappointed with that. Although I am disappointed with that. Going on more individually, I think weirdly Harper didn't stand out to me too much in either a good or a bad way, when usually he's been one of our weak points. I don't think he was a weak point today. I think Cameron Harper really, not that he had a fantastic game, but he wasn't noticeable like he has been in previous games. Grant in the midfield, I thought, had a bad game. I think he played very well against Forest Green, and deserved to start this game, but maybe I'd like to see McAdam come in ahead of him. And that's going to be a talking point from today. McAdam, 2 weeks in a row now, scoring a very, very good, very fun. It was a fantastic goal, wasn't it? Like the Forest Green goal, side-footed from outside of the box. This one, I think this one might be even better than the one he scored against Forest Green. It was fantastic, off the bench, not been on the pitch long, and just hammers one into the top corner from outside the box. And if you're Harvey McAdam, you've got to be saying to the manager, especially with Grant having a poor game today, what more do I have to do to start? I'm coming off the bench and I'm scoring goals, I'm playing well. What more do I need to do? So I think there's maybe a case to drop Grant to the bench, or possibly drop him out of the squad in place of Ellis, who I think definitely should be in the squad at the very least. He wasn't even in the squad today, wasn't even on the bench. I would definitely start McAdam over Grant next week. I think that would be maybe the only change I make to the starting 11. And then there's the argument to be made over Luamba or Williams. I prefer Luamba, although I can see him starting Williams next week, and to be honest, I wouldn't be too angry at that. I think it's very close between the two, and maybe you want to, until he's fully fit, make Luamba a bit of a super sub. This is his first game back after all, and I think he weirdly had to play right back for a portion of that game, which didn't suit him. But when he was on the wing for the short amount of time he was, when he was on the wing for the short time he was, I think he was quite effective. So I wouldn't really mind seeing Luamba or Williams next week starting on the wing. Another talking point has to be the striker, I think. Kelly was very good against Forest Green. He got his goal from a penalty, but really that doesn't tell the full story. He was really, really good all game against Forest Green. I think he really didn't do particularly well against Yeovil. He struggled against two very physical centre-backs, which isn't something that he tends to do on a regular basis. I would still start him next week, but if I'm Armstrong sitting on the bench today, having been a starter earlier on in the season, I'm thinking, how am I not even getting on in that game? He's really struggling up front. Maybe you think it's not Armstrong's kind of game, but, when we're on top in the last 5-10 minutes, why not put Armstrong on? Why not put Armstrong on just for Armstrong's sake? Because Kelly clearly wasn't up to it towards the end. He really had a poor game. Even if you think it's not the game for Luke Armstrong, give him a chance, because he's proved that he's an effective goal scorer. He's proved that he's an effective goal scorer at a higher level than this, but more specifically this season, he's been our starting striker. He scored our first goal of the season. He's scored a lot more since then, and I did think it was quite odd for him to not even get off the bench. But in a game where we scored our equaliser through a substitute very shortly after they came on, I'm not going to criticise Mark Hughes' subs too badly. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I apologise for my voice. I can't guarantee it, but I really hope it's better for next week, or even tomorrow for that matter. But yeah, in a bit.